Hey guys, Alex with Midway Apparel coming back at you today for another video in our humble father, faithful husband series. This is going to be a follow-up to the last video. This is going to be navigating ADHD, part 2. If you didn't watch part 1, I gave a lot of the background for my son and navigating with the school system. With the son who has ADHD, the whole diagnosis process, all that kind of stuff. If you didn't watch that video, you're interested in that, just go back and watch the previous video. You can also find it in the Humble Father, Faithful Husband playlist on this channel. Again, just a reference if you're interested. This book, Healing ADD by Dr. Daniel Amen of the Amen Clinics. I would highly recommend, if you or someone you care about suffering from ADD, ADHD, same difference. Do them a favor, get this book. This is not a paid advertisement or anything of the sort, but this book was very important in helping us along in our journey. So the last video we talked about navigating the school system, the whole diagnosis process, all that kind of information. I'm not going to delve into that again, so we're going to jump straight into finishing up the story and where we are now with the school district. So last video, I believe we ended off talking about how we finally got a 2-on-1 approved for my son. We talked about how the delay in that happening until the second half of the school year. The first half of his repeating first grade turned out worse than the first time around. After winter break, Christmas break, whatever, he had a 2-on-1. So that is a sort of a teacher assistant who his job was to help out my son and one other student in the class to help keep them on point, keep them directed, help out if need be, give them additional assistance in class, all that kind of stuff. So that turned out pretty well. In addition to that, a little bit later in the school year, so maybe 3/4 of the way through the school year, after we talked to the school district about the ADHD diagnosis and everything we'd done with the Amen clinics, gave them the brain scans, gave them the paperwork, the suggestions from the Amen clinic. The school district had told us about a new program that they were sort of test running, launching, and this program is called the TSP program. I can't for the life of me remember what that stands for. Therapeutic something. Anyways, it's sort of, my son calls it his second classroom, and it's just that it was a classroom just outside of his main classroom, and it was a couple of teachers working with just a couple of students, so it was almost one-on-one kind of situation, and subjects that my son was struggling in. They were able to, he would leave his main classroom, he would go into this secondary classroom, and they were able to work with him on a much closer level. They really worked on reading with him, writing. Those are things he was really struggling with. He was behind where he should be, even though he was repeating the first grade, and that program has made all the difference for him. It's given him a lot more of that individualized attention, and this is something that we had talked to the district about countless times. The ratios that he was having in his classroom just wasn't working for him. But this TSP program working with these much better student ratios, he was really able to start actually enjoying school. He was starting to make great progress, and by the end of the school year, he was about where he should be, which was it was the first time in dealing with his elementary school that we had good news. It wasn't, hey, your son is deficient in all these things. It's, hey, we don't think he's ready for this, that, the other thing. The end of the school year review was, hey, he's about where we want him to be to go into second grade. And that was a huge relief. In addition to that, they also offered a summer school program for him. And the summer school program is not available for the majority of kids. We didn't even know it existed. And it was pretty much a one-on-one through the summer. And it was keeping him up on reading, writing, all that kind of stuff, so we didn't sort of regress over the summer. Now, I do have to say it was very helpful. I'm so glad we did it. As per all things with the school district, they mentioned the possibility of it, and then we didn't hear anything from them forever. And then towards the end of this school year, within like the last week or two, we emailed them and we're like, hey, you mentioned this as a possibility. Where are we at with this? What's going on? And they said, whoops, we didn't get you that work. Sorry. And they sent us the paperwork, and looking through the paperwork, we found out that it was already too late technically to apply. But we filled out all the paperwork and we sort of pushed for it to happen. Now, granted, by this point in time, again, you're looking the last couple weeks of school, we had already planned out the entire summer for the most part. A lot of summer camps are booking starting January, February. March is getting late. And so we had already booked him for two different weeks of camp. The town offers a camp, and when he was kindergarten and first grade, it was I would call it a better camp. And then after first grade, it moves to the town park, and everything's outside, which is great, but when it's really hot, they don't really have any place to go inside with the kids to cool them off. And it is run pretty much exclusively by high school kids. And I had heard the previous summer, I had heard a lot of not so great things about, the high school kids not being very vigilant, not paying much attention to the campers, getting into things they shouldn't have been getting into during camp. It was not something I wanted to do. The only benefit of town camp really is that it's one of the few camps that's available that lasts the entire summer, or the majority of it. Everything else nowadays is pretty much just a week-long camp, and they're not cheap. But we had booked him for a couple of camps. We booked him for a robotics camp. He is super into robotics, all that kind of stuff, programming. That's something that he focuses really well on that. If you're not familiar with the concept of ADD or ADHD as a superpower, I've heard it referenced a couple of times. And if you just Google ADD as a superpower, it talks about how kids with ADD are able to really focus in super tight on things that pique their interest. And so it can be a superpower. They apply themselves really well to things once they really get into them. And so we thought robotics camp would be a fantastic thing for him to do. And then we also, every week, we send him to a class. group is called Kid Strong. They've done a lot of expansions throughout the country over the last couple years. It's kind of like a fun gym workout for kids. They develop a lot of physical activity, skills, things of that sort, but they also work on other things as well during those sessions. So he's gone to that every week pretty much since, I don't know, for like 2 years now at this point. He loves it. He had one of his last birthday parties at Kid Strong, loved it. And they had offered a camp, and so we put him in a week of that as well. And the way we had kind of spaced out our summer was that we would have a week off, and then we do a camp, and then he'd have a week off, and then we do a camp, and then a week off, and then a camp. We also planned a trip as well for the summer that was about a week long. And so we had all that stuff planned by the time the school district said, oh, hey, we have this camp of this summer school thing available. So he missed about half of it. The summer school was half days, so it was, I think, 9 to noon or something like that. But it was really good for him. It really helped with his confidence. He went into second grade prepared. It wasn't a weird, strange thing going back to school again for him. And I'm glad we did it. I'm really glad that we pushed for that. Going into second grade, he was already in that TSP program, so we didn't have to go through the groundwork of trying to get him put into the program. He started right off in it. In this program, again, it essentially removes him from the main classroom for subjects that he's struggling in. So reading and writing, he goes to the TSP room, and the other one he goes for is math. Now, I'm glad he goes for math. And it's not that he struggles with math; he's actually really good at it. The struggle that he was having with math was reading the word problems and figuring out what exactly they wanted him to do. And, you know, as he improved on his reading, that got a lot better, a lot smoother. And if anything, the struggles he was having in math was because he was bored. And we had mentioned that when he was going to repeat first grade. We said, yeah, you know, math has not been a struggle for him. We're concerned about him being bored and that causing problems. And they said, yeah, you know, we'll figure out what we can do about it. And I don't think they did much of anything about it. This year, though, it's fantastic. Again, he's in second grade, but he's learning some basic geometry stuff. He's learning his multiplication tables. It's applying his mental abilities a lot better. And I couldn't be happier with him in this program. The one interesting thing is his teacher that he had last year for the TSP program. We knew that it was going to be a different teacher this year. And one of the other teachers in there he had for summer school, so that was really helpful. And then going into this year, they moved that other teacher to middle school or high school. They completely changed it all around, so he had a whole new team effectively for his TSP classroom. We made sure to reach out to her and meet ahead of time, and it's been fantastic. There's definitely a much better reward system. They make things more fun for him. It's him and I think 3 other kids in the program, which is fantastic. A ratio of students to teachers is so much better. And he's actually really enjoying school this year. We've heard pretty much nothing but good things about how he's progressing this year. Ultimately, the goal of the program is if he doesn't need to be pulled out of the classroom, then they'll start, reintegrating him into his main classroom for those subjects. The rest of the subjects, he's in his main classroom. So he's still with the majority of students for a good part of the day. And it's just cool. It's cool to see that he's enjoying school. A lot of the behavioral struggles aren't happening anymore this year. Um, he's just a lot happier, and that's fantastic. I mentioned just a minute ago, there's a better reward system. They were getting kids in the class were getting all their work done. They had a Hot Wheels party. His teachers do a great job in there of, what shows are the kids interested in and how can we use those things to help the kids learn what they're required to learn in the second grade. So she'll bring in Minecraft things and Hot Wheels and Sonic and all that kind of stuff, and he's just excited about everything. Comes home, flies through his math homework. His reading has improved significantly. Um, we're getting him more books, and we'll see him sitting there looking through them, showing interest in books. He reads 15 minutes every day after school. It's part of his homework. And we can just let him go pick a book and sit there and read for 15 minutes. It's amazing. It's made all the difference, and I can't emphasize enough making sure as a parent you stay on top of these things. Again, like I mentioned in the previous video, these schools are interested in checking boxes, doing what they need to do. I assume it's a money-based thing. If they can say, well, this student needs this kind of service, then the district gets state grants, state money for various things. And you know how schools are and wanting to rake in all the extra money they can for all those things. So yeah, it's been really helpful. Again, as a parent, you owe it to your child to give them the best experience, the best learning experience. Ultimately, I do believe something like homeschooling would be the best, but that obviously it requires a lot of additional time. It's hard to do with both parents working outside the home. So it's important to make sure we're getting them the best we can, and staying on top of the school district is big. I also want to really emphasize the importance of something like an ADHD diagnosis. It's good to know, but it's not the end of the world. It's becoming more and more common. And if we as a parent have a problem hearing that, that's a pride thing on our part. It doesn't do our kids well for us to refuse to hear things because it doesn't make us happy. We don't like what's being said. So that's a pride thing that we as parents need to work on. Last thing I want to talk about is the medication route. I mentioned in the previous video as well that there are like 7 different types of ADHD. And if you medicate for one type, it may not be effective, and it may actually make things worse. Different types of ADHD, you've got different sections of the brain that are sort of working in overtime. And if you medicate for one type of ADHD and it's not the right type, it may make that section of the brain even more hyperactive. So the scans through, again, the Amen clinics are really helpful. The type of ADHD that my son has, honestly, it threw everyone for a loop. So he, instead of having one really active part of his brain, he's got multiple sections of his brain that are hyperactive. And that type of ADHD, generally speaking, is seen with kids who have had some sort of major childhood trauma. when I read about that in this book, trying to diagnose based off of reading a book, it's kind of like Googling something, right? I didn't put too much emphasis into that type because he's had a great life. He hasn't had any big problems. There's no childhood traumas that have occurred for him. And so I just never thought it would be the thing. And it is. What was that major trauma? I don't know. I don't know. Kids perceive things very differently, so it's hard to say. But that's what he has. And we expressed our concern with medicating a young child as their brain is continuing to develop. When you start putting them on medications that could change their personalities, there's a lot of downsides to medication. And so we had expressed that to the clinic in our follow-up meetings, and that they were perfectly fine with that. They had actually suggested doing a supplement route. So they have, right? Of course, they've got something for that. They have a whole supplement line, and so we talked to them, and they had suggested one of their supplements. It's called Neuralink, and he takes 2 capsules twice a day, and they're like precursors to hormones and chemicals that the body makes anyways, and it's made a world of difference for him. He takes 2 of those pills twice a day. There's a powder version as well, which is what we started with him on. You mix it in with water and whatnot. It's like citrus flavored. He's very sensory oriented, and he was not a fan of the citrus flavor of it. And so he said, you've either got to drink this or there's a pill version you can take. And he disliked the powder enough that he learned how to swallow pills. So that's really good. And that's, we're going on maybe about a year of that. And it's still working out really well for him. So we're not doing any medication. That is an option down the road, but I think these supplements seem to be doing the trick at this point. So in addition to that, I make him a smoothie every morning for breakfast, and so we put a liquid multivitamin in it. They make a fish oil supplement that's actually phenomenal. If anyone takes fish oil supplements, certainly check out. I forgot what the line of their products are called. Just Amen Clinic supplements. It's a really good fish oil product. Doesn't taste fishy in the least bit. So I put some of that in his smoothie every morning, and a greens powder. I mix that in his smoothie, and that's part of his breakfast every morning. And then he takes that Neuralink twice a day, and that's it. Again, the TSP program through school has made a huge difference. The supplements, I think, have helped quite a bit as well. I'll be honest, we haven't been great on the follow-up with the clinics since. In the next video in this series, I'll talk about one other issue that he's working through right now, just to mention it off the cuff, and it probably doesn't mean anything to most people. Periodic fever syndrome is something else that we're dealing with right now, and that's been a long road. And essentially every 2 weeks he spikes a massive fever, to the tune of around 105 every 2 weeks or so. Again, I'll do another video on that. That'll come out probably later this week, early next week sometime. And that's been something that we've had to fight for people to believe us on that, and to get to the point that we are now actually doing something about it. It's been well over a year and a half in the making. So yeah, I'll have a video coming about that shortly. Um, but that's pretty much it for all the ADD, ADHD stuff. Um, again, I'll show you the book one more time. Healing ADD by Dr. Daniel Amen. If you're interested, if there's a just go on their website. They'll tell you where all the clinics are and all that kind of stuff. Again, I would highly suggest, if you suspect ADD or ADHD, I would highly suggest finding a clinic, going and getting the scans done. And again, if you've got a kid with it, one of the best things that you can really do for them, don't try to hide things from them. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Don't try to hide it from them. Make it a part of their experience. Help them learn coping mechanisms, so that they're not dependent on somebody else keeping them in check. That's really, really important skill for kids to learn. And just talk to them about it being a superpower. It allows them to really focus in on things they're interested in. Help them discover what that thing is for them. Help them, do things for them that they can really do a deep dive into things they're interested in. Again, at the end of the day, I just finished a book the other day. It's called Mind Shift by Erwin McManus, and he talks in there about the purpose of the school system is essentially to make us well-rounded people, Renaissance people. But at the end of the day, that makes us okay at a lot of things and not very good at anything. And ADHD is one of those things that helps us focus in on something very specific that we're interested in. And once you get out of the school system, move into sort of the real world afterwards, being able to focus in on one thing is really, really important. And helping to nourish that in our kids at a young age. It's one of the best things we can do as a parent for our kids. We don't want to live through our kids. We've been there. We've done that. You had your opportunity. You still have opportunities as an adult. Don't try to live through your kids. I see this a lot in sports. Parents in sports. Parents want their kids to be the all-star football player, the all-star baseball player, because they weren't quite good enough, and so they want to live through their children. And don't be that person. Don't be that person. That's not doing them any favors. You had your chance, and if you made it, good on you. And if you didn't, sorry. All right, that's it. That's navigating ADHD number 2. If you guys have questions about anything I talked about, drop them in the link. Drop them in the comments below. If you got anything from this video, the other video, please do like and subscribe. I know that sounds kind of ridiculous to say, but it does help feed the YouTube algorithm, shall we say. So these videos get out to more people. If you're interested in supporting what I'm doing, again, link in the box below for Midway Apparel. Consider picking up an item. I'll probably have something coming relatively soon as far as ADHD being a superpower. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. And again, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the comment box below. Interested to hear your guys' experiences as well. If you've had experiences with your school districts or adulthood even, diagnoses of ADHD. One of the things that was, I'll leave you with this, one of the things that they had mentioned at the clinic was, you know, these things don't necessarily, at least at this point, just pop up out of nowhere. A lot of it they're finding out is actually sort of a genetic thing. Uh, so, so automatically on saying that, I looked at my wife and she looked at me and I said, which one of us is it? And then we both realized that it's probably both of us, but that's okay. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.